Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Johns Hopkins School of Education, Master of Science in Education, Digital Age Learning and Educational Technology, also known as DALET virtual webinar. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Also presenting today, we have Professor and Program Lead, Dr. Jim Diamond. And before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We will be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Also, please take this time to make sure your mic is on mute and video is off. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please type your question in the chat box and we will answer your questions. I would like to share the agenda for today's virtual webinar. We will kick off the presentation sharing an overview of the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Then Dr. Diamond will go over information on the DALET program. And lastly, we'll wrap it up with admissions requirements, go over financial aid, and leave the floor open for questions at the end. And to start, we are one of 9 schools at Johns Hopkins University. We began offering college courses for teachers in 1909 and then became our own school in 2007. And we are proud to share that the Johns Hopkins School of Education is consistently ranked one of the top schools in education by the U.S. News and World Report. And for school enrollment, we have approximately 2,364 students, and we offer 27 graduate programs, which includes doctoral, master's, and graduate certificate programs. And we also have a strong network of over 23,000 SOE alums. And for faculty introduction, Dr. Jim Diamond is the faculty lead for the DALET program. Dr. Diamond has a BA and a master's from Boston University and a PhD from New York University. He is a researcher in the field of digital media learning, focused on the use of educational games to enrich K-12 learning and teaching for students and teachers. Dr. Diamond's experience also includes educational research, design, and evaluation. And his areas of interest include K-12 history, social studies, and civics education, STEM education, computational thinking, and disciplinary literacy. And lastly, Dr. Diamond's research has been funded by the National Science Foundation, the MacArthur's Foundation, the Gates Foundation, and the Robin Hood Learning and Technology Fund. All right, at this time, I will now hand the floor over to Dr. Diamond.
Thank you so much, Sion. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, I'm very happy to be here. Good afternoon to everyone who's chosen to attend the webinar this afternoon. I'm very excited to be with you. As always, I'm very excited to know that there are professionals in the world who are interested in the wide field, my field of educational technology. And as you know, this is a fairly remarkable time to be engaged in the field of educational technology, whether you are a classroom teacher, a school administrator, an instructional designer, a corporate trainer, or any of the number of other professions that are covered under the EdTech umbrella. This is obviously an incredible time. We are, depending on your point of view, either still in the midst of a pandemic or on the tail end of a pandemic. That is fair to say. In the world of education has turned many things upside down over the past couple years, and EdTech has come to the fore as things have been turned upside down. And it has come to the fore for positive reasons and for negative reasons, I would argue. I think over the past couple of years, we've seen some remarkable things, not least of which is millions of learners worldwide, not to mention everybody working in professional capacities, moved online for some amount of time and engaged in learning activities. The downside, as we've seen very prominently, is that I think here in the US and certainly other countries around the world, we were reminded, as we should be reminded, that there are still stark inequities in terms of access to educational technologies, but also in terms of the preparedness of different systems, whether they're school systems or corporate systems or government systems, how well they were prepared to make use of educational technology such that it benefits all learners. And that is something that you will become more competent with as a student in this program, or presumably any educational technology program that you explore. A program like DALET is dedicated to preparing you to ask critical questions about the use of educational technology, who benefits from the use of these technologies, who does not, who sets the agenda for the use of educational technologies, who does not have a voice in the use of these technologies, who makes decisions about how these technologies are designed and developed and implemented. Again, who does not have a voice in those decision-making processes. So those are questions you will ask yourselves as a graduate student, either in the certificate program or in the degree program here in the School of Education. You will also develop core competencies in terms of integrating technology effectively to meet the needs of individual learners in different settings, K-12 settings, corporate settings, out of school education, for example, museum education. You will also develop skills in the design of instruction for online, face-to-face, and hybrid learning environments. And you'll become well-versed in the underlying theories and the science of learning that should support any decisions you make about how to design, develop, implement, and evaluate these technologies, such that you are ultimately a much stronger evaluator of these tools, and you're a much stronger consumer. Whether you're an educator, a parent, somebody in the corporate space, you will leave this program having a very strong foundation in the theories, in the evidence that enable you to make decisions about whether and how to use these technologies. The educational technology field as a whole right now, from an industry perspective, it's fair to say, exploding. This is an industry that over the rest of the decade is predicted to expand at a very rapid pace in the areas of hardware design, software design, and content production, instructional design. And with that growth in industry means that there are more jobs in this field projected throughout the rest of the decade, not only here in the United States, but worldwide. And so again, it's a very exciting time. I think it's a very exciting time to be in this field. It's a very exciting time to be thinking about how you want to improve your skill set as an educator or as a designer or as a developer in thinking about how to use these technologies. So again, I'm excited to be here with you. Welcome, and let's move on to the overview of the program. See you on the next slide, please. Okay, so some broad information about the program. It is a completely online program. We offer 2 credentials. We offer a Master's of Science in Education in the area of digital age learning and educational technology. It's a 36-credit degree that involves taking 12 courses. We also offer a graduate certificate in leadership and technology integration, which is a 15-credit certificate, involves taking 5 courses. Most students complete on the lower end of 1 year. That's typically certificate students, 1 to 1.5 years, or 2 years for students who are enrolled in the degree program. We offer courses in the spring, summer, and fall, and we also admit students in the spring, summer, and fall. Next slide, please. So DALET is a very strong program for those who are in K-12 education, either as teachers or as administrators. It's a strong program for instructional technologists, right, which is a broad term that captures the work of people in K-12, in higher education, in corporate spaces, in government, many people whose job it is either to implement these technologies or to plan for the implementation of these technologies. This is a strong program for people in those careers and jobs. It is a good program for higher education professionals, organization leaders, education consultants, and online course developers, which there is an increasing interest in that area in our program. Next slide, please. So the DALET program right now is about 130 active graduate students in the degree program and the certificate program, all online. About 2/3 of our students at any given time are female, about 1/3 of them are male. The majority of our students from term to term, year to year, are in the K-12 space. They are typically classroom teachers, so somewhere between 60 and 70% of our students are K-12 classroom teachers. Some percentage of those teachers that start with us are pursuing a graduate degree with the idea of changing careers. So we have some number, and it's fair to say 20 to 25% of the teachers who are with us at any given time are considering typically moving into instructional design or instructional technology positions outside of the classroom, certainly not necessarily outside of school systems. So we have teachers who are interested in becoming instructional technology coordinators, either at the district or school level. And the other 30 to 40% of our graduate students are dispersed broadly throughout adult education, again, in corporate training, out of school education spaces, the military, and the governments, I should say, at local, state, and national levels. The average age for our students hovers around the mid-30s. That range is from the mid-20s, typically to late 50s to early 60s. Most of our students are early or mid-career, by which I mean people who are a couple of years out of their undergraduate education, or people on the far end of it who are somewhere between 7 and 10 years out of their since completing their undergraduate degrees. For most of our students, this is their first graduate credential, either their degree or the certificate. And as I mentioned, we have some number of career changers, not just teachers, incidentally. So we've had lawyers who have left the legal profession to take instructional technology positions in schools. We have had also people come out of corporate training space who are interested in pursuing this degree to go into instructional design in higher education, or indeed to become instructional technologists in school systems. So that's a snapshot of our student body. Next slide, please. So we are an online program. Our students are, as you can see, in many different places in the world. This is just to give you some sense of where our students typically reside. There's actually a few states that are not represented here. We have students in Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona as well. We have students in Brazil, China, South Korea, Japan, India, and elsewhere. So one of the remarkable things about online education, online graduate education, is that you will have classmates and peers from all over the world in many different time zones. Next slide, please. So as an online program, everything is delivered online in a learning management system. The learning management system that the school and the university has used for some number of years is Blackboard. We are in the process now of transitioning to Canvas. This image that you have here is just a snapshot of what one page in a learning management system might look like, just to give you some sense of what a landing site looks like in a learning management system. Now, associated with these courses, because a learning management system really just gives you sort of a landing pad for courses, you'll also be using Zoom to engage in synchronous discussion with your classmates, synchronous discussion with peers, to attend lectures, to attend panels. You will be viewing previously recorded sessions. All classes will also have recorded audio and video lectures. Anytime a professor lectures in the program, that will always be recorded and transcribed and made available not long after the lecture or discussion or whatever the live event is. You obviously do a significant amount of collaborating online with your classmates and peers. We do have students who get together when they live in the same city, for example. So it happens. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. Most of your work with your peers will be online using collaborative tools, and there's any number of them. And there's also a significant amount of discussion that goes on in the courses. Some of that will be synchronous, again, using tools like Zoom or Flipgrid or Microsoft Teams. Others will be asynchronous using traditional discussion boards in the learning management system, or using tools like Padlet, for example, in which students are exchanging messages and ideas with one another in a more informal setting than what you would see in the learning management system. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a sample of DALET's course offerings. If you have access to the course website in the School of Education, you'll be able to see all of our course offerings. You can also request a copy of the student handbook from us, and that will even give you some more description on what the courses are about. But this is a little bit of an overview. So technology and the science of learning, fundamentals of design thinking, foundations of online teaching and learning, instructional design for online learning, emerging issues, explorations in blended and hybrid learning, tech for learner variability, tech leadership for school improvement. So these courses, just by the title alone, my hope is that they give you some sense of the ideas with which you will be engaging and the competencies you'll be developing in DALET. So you will be exposed to and think about theories within the science of learning and look at evidence-based practices that come out of the science of learning. You'll engage in instructional design practices, particularly in the online space, but also for hybrid spaces, which have become increasingly in demand during the pandemic. You'll also be taking courses in research and evaluation, and in leadership. So how to make use of research and evaluation, how to create a vision for a school setting or a corporate setting around the use of technology, and then how to make decisions as a leader using the data that you collect via research and evaluations, such that you can make decisions about how well your technology supported interventions are going and what kinds of changes you might need to make. Next slide, please. So here we have an example of an academic program. This would be for a degree student. You can see here we have 6 terms. So a student taking 2 courses a term would expect to finish in 2 years. All of our students start with technology and the science of learning, and all of them finish with the advanced seminar and the advanced applications courses, which together are the graduate capstone experience. So you do an independent study and you also create a digital portfolio as part of the capstone experience. The courses in between are taken in consultation with your academic advisor. And you have opportunities to take electives, up to 2 electives outside of the DALET program and other programs in the School of Education if they are open to students who are not in their programs. So again, this is a sample of courses. There are other courses, but this gives you some sense of what a typical program might look like for a degree student. For a certificate student, we might see 2 a semester for 2 semesters, and then the last course being advanced applications in which they do their independent study for the certificate. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so who are our faculty? There are between 13 and 15 of us. I have 13 of us pictured here. There are 3 full-time faculty members. So those first 3 up in the top row, myself, Chris Devers, and Josh Shusky are the full-time faculty members. The 3 of us come out of, broadly speaking, the K-12 technology space. So most of our research and scholarship has been in that space. Dr. Devers is an expert in the science of learning, and in particular in the use of video for instruction. Dr. Shusky is an expert in the use of social media and how learners develop identities, identities as learners, identities as professionals, via the use of social media. The rest of our faculty come from a wide range of professional settings. Some of them work here at Hopkins, heading up instructional design offices. Some of them work for the US federal government. Several of them work as school administrators, either superintendents, principals, or assistant principals in K-12 settings here in Maryland and elsewhere. Some of them work in nonprofit research and development organizations in the ed tech space, and then some of them are consultants in the ed tech space as well. So I think it's important to realize that there is a real breadth of professional background in the ed tech space, in addition to having the research focus that you would expect to have at an institution like Hopkins. But in a master's degree, I think it is incredibly important that students are taking courses with people who are working in the field, working in settings, perhaps in the same settings that you all may be or plan to be working in, because these people not only will help you develop competencies, they'll help you expand your professional networks. They will be able to give you advice about your current career trajectory or where you may think your career trajectory is going in the future. And in some cases, some of them will wind up becoming mentors for you, not only in the immediate future, but it's not unheard of for our instructors to continue to mentor students years down the road. Okay, next slide, please. So I've mentioned already some of the careers. Ed tech is a very, very wide field. K-12, higher education, corporate training, government training, out of school education, consulting, media production, instructional design, learning experience design. And these cover just a few students. We have students who leave us who work in public media, who go into publishing, or who come out of publishing and remain in publishing, or who come to us in publishing and leave to go to the classroom. So it's a wide field and it's a fluid field, and it is for that reason that DALET is designed to meet the needs of such a diverse field of graduate students, because graduate students in educational technology really are coming from many different fields and many different geographic locations. Okay, next slide, please. So the advantages to the DALET program, certainly the fact that it is an online program, in the School of Education at Johns Hopkins University, which is one of the preeminent research institutions in the country and the world. The curriculum of our program, the expertise, the professional backgrounds that I mentioned of our instructors really do address the needs of many, many learners. Our faculty, it is safe to say, have a very good amount of real world experience. So again, we have this combination, and I'm not a person who's particularly fond of separating the academy from the real world. So by this, what I mean is people whose careers have developed in this field of educational technology such that you as learners have a real opportunity to learn not only from their knowledge base, which is deep, but also from their skill sets and what they have learned in their own growth as professionals over time, over many years, in their current jobs, in previous jobs. That's a huge benefit for graduate students. And lastly, I will say that it is clear that we are a program that, while we do bring in learners from many different fields, we are particularly focused on K-12 education. We are particularly focused on the needs of K-12 educators and the needs of K-12 learners as well. And I think that's the end of my bit. Thank you very much. And I look forward to your questions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Diamond. So now we're going to continue by going over the application requirements. First, applicants must submit a completed application, which can be found on the school's website. The application fee is $80. We need all official transcripts, including institutions you may have taken courses but did not receive a degree. Again, this is from all post-secondary institutions that you have attended. Next, a 500-word essay must be uploaded. You will need a current resume or CV, 2 letters of recommendation. We do prefer at least one of your references to be an academic reference from a former instructor or faculty. However, if you're unable to have one academic letter of recommendation, we will accept two professional letters of recommendation. And lastly, the GRE is not required for this program. There are a few additional steps you need to take in order to complete the application process if you're an international student. You must submit a TOEFL or IELTS score, and if your degree was completed outside of the US, you will need to complete a course-by-course evaluation. Additional information can be found on the school's website. The tuition and fees for the 2022-2023 academic school year is $918 for face-to-face courses, and that's $918 per credit. $972 plus a $20 per credit technology fee for an online course. And this excludes textbook, course materials, graduation fee, and registration fee. We encourage you to view our tuition and fees page on the school's website for the most up-to-date information on tuition and fees. And if you're interested in applying for financial aid, we strongly encourage you to apply for financial aid when you start your application. And keep in mind, the School of Education, we do offer a very limited number of partial need-based institutional scholarships each year. SOE's endowed scholarship awards range on average from $500 to $1,500 per semester, and they're applied to tuition expenses beginning in the fall semester. Please keep in mind, to apply for the SOE endowed scholarship, you will need to complete the FAFSA form. To learn if you qualify for the endowed scholarship or have any questions regarding financial aid, please visit the school's website. And thank you for attending the DALET virtual webinar. At this time, we would like to open up the floor for questions. And Dr. Diamond, while we wait for questions, we do get some frequently asked questions in the Office of Admissions. The first one is, what is the delivery format of the program? Are the courses asynchronous, synchronous?
Good question. Thank you, Sean. So the primary modality of the program is asynchronous online education. So what do I mean by that? All of the courses, all of the materials, it's a sort of self-enclosed world. Imagine that you take a classroom and you put it online and it becomes a two-dimensional space that has all of the resources that you as a learner need to perform most of the tasks at hand. When you need to collaborate with others, you'll need to go outside of the learning management system, typically. Most courses are delivered asynchronously. And so by that, I mean that you are not expected to show up at some place at some time on some day of the week consistently for the term. All courses will have synchronous sessions. And it will vary from course to course. So some instructors hold weekly synchronous sessions. In fact, some instructors hold more than one synchronous session a week. Some instructors do them every other week. Some of them do them once a month, and some of them do them a few times a term. You will be encouraged strongly to attend synchronous sessions. You cannot be required to. We have students, as I noted earlier, all over the world. It can be difficult for students to attend things when it's 4 a.m. Their local time, for example. But if you're an early riser, then the instructors will be I would be very happy to have you. But all of those, the lectures, the discussions, anything that happens synchronously is recorded and made available to students. The other thing to note about these courses is that they are held in sessions. So we are not a mastery program in the sense that a course opens at the beginning of the semester and a student just proceeds at her or his own pace. Courses are taught in 1 or 2 week sessions, which means that you will have an expected amount of activity, assignments, discussions, readings that happen during that session. If there's something that's due, it's due in a session, it will be graded or commented on by an instructor or by your peers and return. If there are return to you. If there are group projects, you will need to work with your peers during that session in order to have a deliverable in by whatever date on which that deliverable is due. And that happens from session to session. Right? So if it's a 1 week session, you have all of the materials available to you that are for that session. You do not have materials available for future sessions. So future sessions unlock as we move through the term. Did I answer that question adequately, Sian?
Yes, that was great. Thank you. The next question we have from Michael is, do the classes involve any development of apps, software?
So the short answer is no. The longer answer is, depending on the course, there can be some development work. So for example, we offer a course called Computational Thinking for K-12 educators, or a course called Simulations, I beg your pardon, Gaming and Simulations for Learning. In those courses, we have had students actually go through and prototype either games or very simple apps, but they're not required. So it's not, the program's learning objectives do not currently involve actual development of coding skills such that you will leave here with a robust set of coding and development skills and a functional, several functioning prototypes for apps, for example. But again, we do periodically have students who are inspired to do that and will push to do that on their own. Now, the reason I say the word currently is because the program is in the process, and it's probably going to take us 12 months or so to release 1 credit modules that are app focused. So we certainly have an increasing demand and understand the increasing demand for students in the program to develop facility with certain e-learning tools, for example. There may also be some demand for some very basic coding skills, but they would be very basic. What we are also exploring, but it's currently not available, is the possibility of cross-listing, I shouldn't say that, of making it possible for students to take a course in the computer science department, which is in another division of Hopkins. It's over in the Whiting School of Engineering. But we're still early in those discussions. So Michael, the very short answer is no. You will not be required to develop apps or develop a very robust set of competencies in coding. If you wish to, you obviously can do that. Depending on where we are in the program, the level of support that you would have internally for it will vary. And by that, so just so that I'm not mincing words. So as I say, I'm currently expecting about a 12-month development timeline for these development-focused mini courses. On the shorter side of that, so within the next couple of months, we won't have a lot of internal support for it because the faculty don't currently have much expertise in development. 12 months down the road, when I have those courses up and running, then we will have more internal support. I hope I've answered that.
Thank you, Dr. Diamond. The next question we have from Anne is, how does tuition reimbursement work for Johns Hopkins employees in this program? Dr. Diamond, feel free to jump in if you have information on this, but Anne, I would recommend reaching out to HR to get, additional information in regards to, the reimbursement for Johns Hopkins employees. The next question we have from Anya is, does coursework involve how to use ed tech to support learners with diverse learning needs in their general ed classroom to support inclusion?
It does. Thank you, Anya. So there is a strong focus on UDL frameworks, universal design for learning, and there's a strong focus in all of the tech integration related courses on inclusive practices, inclusive design and inclusive implementation practices. So we currently offer a course called Technology for Learner Variability that is focused specifically it uses the UDL, the Universal Design Learning Framework, as a general frame for the entire course. And then students dive deeply, whether they're K-12 educators or whether they're in other spaces, into both theory and practical frameworks for thinking about how to use those technologies to meet the needs of individual learners. We're also in the process of creating an assistive technologies course that should become available. Probably that won't take 12 months. That will probably be about 9 months or so.
All right, thank you, Dr. Diamond, again. So the next question from Neil is, how many students are admitted per cohort? And then if you have the acceptance rate as well, Dr. Diamond.
Gosh, so how many people per cohort? That varies. So let's say 12 plus or minus 5 to give you some sense of the padding. It really does vary. The past couple of years, we saw some, as you might imagine, we saw some pretty significant spikes in applications, and the cohorts were slightly larger. Those numbers are starting to come back down. So if I'm gonna, I'll say it's 12. Let's say it's an average of 12 grad students per cohort. Some of this variation comes from the fact that we have the degree program, we have the certificate program, and then the School of Education also has a program in educational studies in which students can essentially take 2 different certificates and bring them together to create their own master's degree. And we have a fair number of students who take the DALET certificate, and then they also take, for example, the Mind, Brain, and Teaching certificate. So there's some number of students that come through that program as well. So again, let's say it's about 12. Our acceptance rate, I want to say, is it 60 to 70% of our applicants? I think that's about right. Probably closer to 60%.
All right, thank you, Dr. Diamond. And while we wait for more questions, so another question we get is, are some of our students haven't taken an online course before? So they're curious to know, like, what does collaborative learning look like in a virtual setting?
Good question. It looks like a lot of things. It looks like at the very basic level, students texting with one another using WhatsApp or using any number of apps. So texting, perhaps at the low level. Really what happens more often is students will be connecting via Zoom, via Microsoft Teams increasingly, and using the tools that are built in there. So they are connecting with one another via video, via audio, but they also have the opportunity to share desktops with one another. They have the opportunity to doodle, to write together and share those materials with one another. It's fair to say that and this will vary from course to course, but about 50% of your projects in the program will be done as a member of a team. So it's about a 50-50 split between individual assignments, which can include everything from papers to recordings to design documents to writing small white papers, to group projects. That there too are design documents, but to go back to what I was saying earlier about examples of some students who created prototypes. So in the gaming course, I've had teams of students who have actually worked together, typically driven by one, maybe two students who feel much more confident around coding and going and actually submitting some sort of a functional prototype for a simulation. So collaboration is some combination of synchronous and asynchronous communication. Students, I think it's fair to say that there is a learning process, depending on the field, depending on your profession, there's a learning process associated with collaborating with peers who are in different time zones, who come from different professional backgrounds, who often have different personal learning objectives. So there's some period of time, especially earlier in the program, where students really find themselves needing to engage in norm setting. So figuring out in their teams who's going to be responsible for what, when they're going to meet, who's going to be accountable for communicating with instructors, who's going to be accountable for scheduling meetings, so on and so forth. So not necessarily unlike what you might do professionally. Over time, that becomes, it's just more integrated into students' practices in online education. Earlier, it takes some getting used to. It takes some getting used to that. I think the cultural norms of the DALET program, but then any online program in the School of Education, and getting used to processes and habits of mind for working together with other students.
Thank you, Dr. Diamond. The next question I have is, do you have students who work full-time and then go to school part-time? If so, how many hours do you expect a student to allocate on coursework per week?
So on average, we tell students they should expect to spend between 10 and 12 hours per week per course. Now, obviously that will change over a semester depending on the amount of coursework for any given session. And it will also change from course to course. Some courses are just, it turns out, much more demanding of students' time than are others. And that can be especially true around courses that have extensive amounts of group work or group projects. They require more time for students to get together and to work together. But on average, it's fair to expect that you'll be spending 10 to 12 hours per week for readings, for discussions, for group work, for writing or producing, for any of the assignments or activities that will be expected from course to course.
All right, and the last question I have is, Dr. Diamond, are you still accepting applications for the fall 2022 semester?
We are, yeah. I should know the cutoff date for, hopefully you do, Sienna. I don't, but yes, we are still accepting applications.
I would say for the fall, try to, of course, submit as soon as possible, but the latest early August to mid-August, I would say, to give kind of people an idea. All right, so it looks like there are no more questions. Thank you again for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. We look forward to hearing from you. And Dr. Diamond, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. And then on the next slide, I just want to share the admissions email address and the phone number if you have any admissions related questions.
Thanks so much, everyone. You can always feel free to get in touch with me as well. My contact information is on the website. So if you find yourself with remaining questions, I'm happy to exchange emails or we can find a time to talk. And again, I'm excited to know that you're interested, and be well.
All right, have a wonderful evening, everyone.